Hey, man.
How are you?
Shoulder pocket in the house. I know it's going to be a big show.
Shoulder pocket in the house. It's another government secret shoulder pocket episode. Beep, beep, beep. Episode 35. It's a significant. We're halfway to 70, so I wanted to go shoulder pocket.
You can keep anything in there. You could keep like a button. You could keep like a half a condom, a half of one.
Yes,
you could.
Half of one still works.
Well, you get two halves of one, and yeah, you'll be good to go.
One of those really small Band-Aids. You can keep in there.
the little circle ones. One of the little circle ones.
I got one of the circle ones in there.
Which, as far as I can tell, the little circle ones are for when the wind blows too hard and it hurts. I don't like. What is that? What wound is that small?
It's just like, yeah, I don't know. What I do in this pocket, I have one Tic-Tac and then one of those circle, and I just tape it to my skin, and that actually helps your breath if you just
like quitting smoking patches, but for Tic-Tacs you take them intravenously.
Yes, you tape it to your skin, and your skin absorbs the Tic-Tacness, which eventually makes you not have dog mouth. So it works. That's what little pockets are for, buddy.
Absolutely what they're for.
I hope you're tuning in, folks, for the hard science of government.
By the way, I don't know why, but to shift to something slightly more political. Did you? I don't know if you watched any of the King. I only watched. I'm not going to act like I watched the whole thing. I watched 3 minutes, but any of the hearing between the three tech CEOs and Congress, which was 5 hours of Congress begging the platform, CEO Zuckerberg, the head of Google, and the head of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, begging them to censor more people. That's what it was. 5 hours of Congress going, why aren't you censoring people more? Why aren't you demonetizing more?
Gee, I missed that. Just to see good governance in action sounds like just kissing the asses of the tech billionaires. Please monitor our citizens more and do what you will with the Constitution.
Yeah. It was amazing to see. Honestly, it was like, don't you care about the world? Why aren't you censoring more people? And Zuckerberg being like, we're trying. We just aren't exactly sure how to censor more people because we're censoring everyone.
Would some federal money help to figure you guys out how to censor more people? Could we do that? Can we get you some more tax dollars since you guys don't already pay taxes? We should then give you extra money to help with the censoring of the American people.
Yeah, one congressperson, Glenn Greenwald, featured in his article about it. I can't remember who the congressperson was. Democrat, of course. Basically said to Zuckerberg, we have, there's a list of terrorist groups like ISIS. Would it help if the groups in America were put on a similar list? Basically saying that, it's groups in America that are saying things that she doesn't like are equivalent to ISIS.
Wow.
And should be banned on Facebook.
This is, I want to say, a great day in America, right? Is that what we're going to say? Oh, boy. It's, yeah. How do we get out of the tech? Because it's like we all use social media to a certain degree. I mean, there's obviously platforms we don't use as much. I mean, I don't know. Like, part of me would like to never use it ever again. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm really holding out for Susie Dawson and Bill Binney's Panquake.
Yeah.
Be great if they did that. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think we're past the point of like let's just go back to when we didn't do this stuff. But
can we just do rotary phones
yeah,
and pagers, something like, can we just do that? I know a comic, Brent Weinbach. Now he does not use social media, but he got rid of his cell phone and he has a home phone number. And when he's home at work, you know, on the computer for a couple, he'll do social media posts, but the rest of the time you can't get a hold of him. And it's fantastic. Like, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to her in several years now, I don't think. But when I used to know Janine Garofalo, she had her cell phone number and that was it. Like, she maybe had some top secret email address that she didn't give out. But she had no Twitter, no Instagram, no Facebook. And everyone who claimed to be her on those platforms, it was all fake. And I was like, that sounds wonderful, but also I think you have to have already been a very successful star in Hollywood to then just decide you know, I'm fine just having a cell phone number. That's it.
I wish I was as famous as like Bill Murray that just has an 800 number that you leave a message for. And he might listen and go, oh, this project sounds, but literally if you're like a big studio or something and want to hire Bill Murray, you just have to call this 800 number and go, Bill, it's Warner Brothers. You want to do our movie? And he might get back to you. I would love to be that rich and famous that I could just go, I don't need to talk to any of you.
Or I think there's also a barbecue joint in South Carolina you can often find him at.
Right.
So that's the other way to get a hold of him.
Just go there on, on Pork Rib Thursdays, and then you're going to find Bill. Maybe you can get him, bring a contract, and he might sign it.
Yeah, let's bring a contract along. Absolutely. So this week on the show, I thought it was a good idea because we've got Derek Chauvin's trial beginning for executing George Floyd in broad daylight, an execution that took nearly 9 minutes and everyone watched. And who knows whether he'll get convicted or not. They may convict him because they realize that the country will be on fire if they don't. But even if he's convicted, that doesn't change what policing is in this country. And I was looking back over our list of topics, and although I've covered it a lot on Redacted, I don't think we've actually gone through kind of the reality of American policing. So,
if there's one government secret we need to do, it's this one, Lee. Government secrets, first segment, inside the horrors of policing.
I can already see the fear in your eyes, Graham. If you're like, I love doing this show, but I fucking hate doing this show.
It's like, at some point, if either one or both of us just get too burnt out, it's just going to be government secrets, but we're just going to pick like Truman's baking recipes or something, just because we can't handle it anymore.
Lighter government secrets.
What were Ron Reagan's favorite jelly beans? Just like, all right, that's right. What we have to do.
It'll be like, Truman had a tiny dick. That's it.
That's why he dropped the bombs.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into it, buddy. Let's go.
All right, man. Let's do it. And then we got, we'll see. I'm pulling most of this from an article I did back when the George Floyd protest first kind of started last year. It's 19 facts about American policing that'll blow your mind. And anybody can also find it online, but we'll see how many we get through. And we might have to make this a two-parter if it gets too long, but we'll see.
Well, I guess we'll get deplatformed then.
Oh, wait. Oh, that's why you're scared. You're scared of what will be said about police.
Yeah, they're just going to first we demonetize, which I'm still demonetized, and then they're gonna anyway. Let's go for it.
I tell you what. So the transcript won't see it too many times. Will in place of the word police, I'll just say Epstein every time.
I don't know if that helps the algorithm, buddy, because I've said that word way too many times on this show, and on my own show. So just say cupcakes, and they'll think we're doing a cooking episode.
Well, then the Julia Child story will fit.
Yes. Oh, that's going to be our next. Oh, after the cop thing, we're going to get into just shattering more of my childhood. But go ahead. Let's do this.
Okay. So let's begin with where American policing got its start. Because believe it or not, here's the thing is we grow up in it and it's so normal to just see cops wandering around fucking everywhere, especially in big cities. It just seems like, oh, that's how the world works. It's not really. That's not how it's always worked. And so the idea of having like patrol people on corners as opposed to people you would call occasionally, once every few years, or maybe once in a lifetime, you have a need to call a police person. Like this idea of them just standing around looking for shit to be going down is not, it didn't start out that way. And so that idea came from slave patrols in America. This is detailed in the book, Our Enemies in Blue. The American police system originated from slave patrols, which turned the streets of towns into patrol routes for what was a quasi-military force. From its earliest days, the American model was a racist tactic to protect the higher class people from the downtrodden and oppressed. And the system, in many ways, has not changed. But back then, it was like, how do we deal with the fact that now there are some freed black people walking around and others are escaped slaves? And, well, let's just have white people sometimes with guns, sometimes not with guns, but let's just have them walking around. And, back in its earliest days, really, if you were kind of a white citizen, you could apply. I think in a lot of these cities, you had to be a white citizen with a gun. You could apply to be a patrol person and be a slave patrol. And you'd go around town looking for black people to accuse them of being escaped slaves. Good
thing we got rid of that.
Yeah, no, it's completely different now. It's not
totally different.
It's not at all similar.
Yeah, no.
Because, and actually, let's see if I'll get more into this. So in that same vein, that police are now like stand around and kind of insert themselves into people's lives. Now, some of the time cops obviously are called to big events, there's a bank robbery or whatever, but that's incredibly rare. Someone who's done a lot of great writing on this is Professor Alex Vitale. I had him on Redacted once. He wrote The End of Policing. And he details how most cops average less than one felony arrest per year. Now, a felony is a larger crime, so that means almost the entirety of a police officer's day-to-day is not dealing with large crimes. One felony a year, meaning almost the entirety of what they do is basically dealing with kind of these nothing crimes, such as loitering or causing a disturbance, or like homeless people sleeping on a bench, or a guy is pissing in a fountain or something. Like it's that kind of shit. Which I'm not saying it's good that guy's pissing in a fountain, but having him arrested by guys with guns is not really necessary.
I don't know. It depends on what your view on fountains is. No, you bring up and I want to. It's a valid point, because in addition to the Chauvin trial, we just had last week in Los Angeles a bunch of homeless people in Echo Park, and they're like, oh, we need to clear them out. So the cops show up, and there's protesters like, we don't want this to happen. Of course, the cops show up, riot gear, all armed to the teeth.
Dude, it was. I read about it. It was helicopters. It was like SWAT vehicles. It was crazy.
It was but that's how they show up with a military response, because the city of Los Angeles lets developers do whatever they want. On every street corner in Los Angeles is a high-rise, fancy $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 one-bedroom apartment place. Some of them in Hollywood are $5,000 a month. Like, who can afford that? And they're not even full. They're empty. A lot of them, they're at 20% occupancy. Some of them, the buildings didn't even finish. And yet we've got tent cities. And then the solution to tent cities is to send a battalion to deal with it. Like,
yeah. And what I read about Echo Park is because LA has hundreds of thousands of homeless people, and Echo Park had started to evolve into, and it wasn't that many. I think it was maybe 100 or a couple hundred maybe, but it had evolved into kind of a bit of a commune for refugees from economic refugees, not refugees from other countries, but from our economic system. And they had been building it up, from what I read, that it had, a pantry, it had an outdoor or maybe indoor shower, it had, places to use a bathroom and waste disposal and stuff like that. So I think that larger than just like, oh, we don't fucking want homeless people here, although that's part of it, it was, we can't allow this to become a functioning little community where people can go who don't have anything else, because then you allowed people to see, hey, this is an idea that could spread. Like, there could be places that are actually acceptable living areas for people in cities around the country, and that's why it had to kind of be crushed.
Yeah, well, it's a bunch of people working together, helping each other out. So we better send a SWAT unit down for that. Not to mention the fact that they did this in Finland, and they're now doing it in Utah, which is the Housing First program to deal with homelessness. And they found it's way more effective and costs less money, of course, is giving homeless people, putting not cots and shelters, a home, like a studio or one-bedroom apartment. Yep. And in these complexes are, job training, drug and alcohol treatment, healthcare, whatever that the people need, and with the goal of integrating them back into society. And they have an 80% success rate. And I guarantee that model is cheaper than the amount of money the city of Los Angeles spent for this, to roll out these tanks and helicopters and whatever, to pay the overtime or what that costs to do an operation like what they just did in Echo Park, which is a military operation. It's something like, I don't know, it's tens of thousands of dollars just in fuel for one helicopter.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's already, the model we have is, once again, just like Medicare for all, the solution is cheaper than the current tactic.
Yeah, Utah saved money. They found out it was cheaper to give people a studio apartment than to have them chronically homeless. And they cut homelessness by 95%. And then a couple of years after they did that, they stopped the program.
Oh, good plan.
So homelessness in Utah has shot back up.
Well, that's weird. It's almost like you have a clear solution.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, if you get rid of the homeless, then who are the cops going to beat the shit out of? Well, everybody else, I guess. So yeah.
Well, and I believe, as George Carlin said, if you don't have the homeless, then who are you going to use to scare the shit out of the middle class? You need the middle class to be terrified that if they stop working for 3 seconds, they'll end up like that guy. No.
Yeah, that's true. Oh.
So to continue to quote from Vitale's numbers, even detectives. So, on a police force, there's regular beat cops, and then there's detectives, which do kind of the more intense, more extreme crimes. They're the ones who are supposed to figure out the bank robberies and the murders and shit. Even detectives, who make up 15% of an average police force, spend most of their time taking reports on crimes that they will never solve, and in many cases will never even investigate. Most crimes that are investigated are not solved. So even the people who focus on the larger crimes, most of the time they aren't solving them. So again, you have the vast majority of a police force is not fucking chasing bank robbers down a street. It is arresting homeless people, arresting people with mental health problems, and getting, quote unquote, getting them into the system. I mean, this serves the class structure. It serves the systemic racist structure to put people in the system at a young age for small crimes. And so rather than working harder to solve the larger crimes, our government officials have created hundreds of smaller crimes for police to nail citizens for. And we add more of these smaller crimes to the books every year, right? Feeding the homeless, camping in public is illegal, building tiny homes is illegal, and all these laws, they just serve to make homelessness a criminal offense, which is hilarious because it's not like people want to be homeless. And it allows police to insert themselves into people's lives on a regular basis. You can walk up to anybody and say, you're loitering, or say various other things. You're causing a disturbance. People have said you seem threatening. And we see these videos of cops asking a guy why he has his hands in his pockets, as if he's not allowed to have his hands in his pockets. And a study in New York found that half of all those who are regularly in the prison system are homeless. And all of these smaller crimes, just to say one more point on that, it's like the wealthy, and by wealthy, I don't mean you have to be immensely rich. I mean, if you are basically a middle class or upper middle class, the wealthy are not going to be arrested for these things. You won't get arrested if you're a fucking dentist taking a nap in your car. Right. You will get arrested if you're sleeping in your car and you appear to be living in your car. You won't get arrested if you're a guy in a suit and a tie walking with a beer in a bag, but you will if you appear to be homeless or appear to be black. I mean, right. I remember in Matt Taibbi's great book, I think it was The Divide, might have been another one, but he talks about how open alcohol container arrests in New York City, only 4% are white people, because basically it's legal for a white person to have an alcohol container. It's illegal for a black person to be walking with an alcohol container.
Oh, God.
And now I'll pause for a moment for Graham to groan into the microphone.
It's like at every turn, everything in America is broken. And it's broken because it's based on some old, archaic, racist, greedy, whatever. It's like trace the history of all of it. Like literally the majority of the world's ills, if not all of them, are in some part connected or at least traceable to capitalism.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
without immense inequality, you wouldn't have this level of racism. You both wouldn't need it to keep the class structure in place, and it wouldn't just kind of further itself by the fact that we all have to be competing with everybody at all moments. So let's point to that person looks a little different. It must be their fault. You just wouldn't have this level of racism at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't have all of it. Then because of the class structure and the wealth inequities, what would the crime rate be if everybody was taken care of? You know what I mean? What would
exactly
be? What would all of it be? I mean, like, I'm sure there's many reasons to contribute to domestic violence for sure, but I could almost guarantee the number would go down just because a lot of it is fueled by money stress. And which then it's generational. So if you grew up in an abusive home, there's a chance you could be abusive. And like if you were, so it's all of these things, the environment. I mean, you name it. We could fix it by getting rid of capitalism.
Speaking to that, a great study. It basically is a study into universal basic income, but that wasn't intended. It was a Native American tribe. I don't remember which one, in North Carolina. They were very poor. This is recent. This is like 20 years ago or something. Very poor tribe. They had wanted a casino and they lobbied for it and everything and eventually got it. And the way they dealt with the money coming into the casino is they gave every family a portion. And so most families were getting about $6,000 a year, which was a very large amount for most of these families. And what they found was that all of the, I think it was Cherokee, but I don't want to get it wrong. All of the native kids that were in regular schools, meaning or not native specific schools, so they're in public schooling with white and black kids. They were doing very poorly in school before this. They were getting in fights. They were failing out. Their grades were all lower than most other kids. And a lot of people wanted to say, "Oh, I guess it's just native kids aren't good at learning. They're just they don't fit in as well, or whatever." But then you give the families $6,000 more a year, and all of a sudden the parents are able to spend more time because they're not working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and they're able to spend more time with the kids. All of those things evened out to the same as the other students. So fights evened out. Failing out was the same. Low grades was the same. It all evened out once you gave the family more money so they could have more time they were able to parent. They were able to spend time with the kid.
It's just on and on those statistics. And then, there's always some capitalist propaganda you see online saying, "Oh, these socialists, I see a young socialist talking on a cell phone, wearing expensive shoes. Capitalism has raised billions of people out of poverty." Right. It's like,
that's called technology, which would have advanced with or without capitalism.
Yeah. And also when they talk about that, it's like, do you want to go look at the big corporations where these iPhones are made and people making $1 a day? There's the third world hasn't been lifted out of poverty due to capitalism. Right. What are you talking about? It's in some places it's been made worse, where they had indigenous people living off the land, and now they're everything was plundered. Anyway,
right? Our country is incredibly wealthy entirely on the backs of both workers that are exploited going back to slavery, but also in other countries, and the resources that are stolen from other countries. So. When people say, "Oh, look how great capitalism is," it's like, no, that's how great dominating and extracting everything from other peoples is. Right. But yeah, I think we've strayed from policing for the moment. But
anyway, back to our horrifying police departments.
I'll give a few more facts, and then we can finish up policing next week in part 2 on American policing. But I thought this was an important, these are important facts to get in here about, because we're dealing with the Chauvin trial and the killing of George Floyd. So some people might know this one. This isn't that secret, but it's certainly not talked about enough. American police kill roughly 1,000 Americans a year, usually a little over 1,000. In 2016, the Guardian reported that it was 1,000. And it's tough to get these numbers because for a long time, or I think maybe it's still now, but if it's changed, it's only changed recently. The police weren't like, there was no general reporting to the federal government on how many murders there had been. So you had to kind of cobble together reports to try and figure out how many people the cops had killed. So the Guardian reported in 2016, it was 1,093. That's roughly 3 American lives extinguished by police every single day in America. Now, compare that to the UK, and I get that the UK is smaller, but the UK averages 3 murders per year. Sometimes they'll have 7 per year, compared to us having 1,093. This means that American police generally kill more citizens in a week in America than the UK will kill in a year. And in 2018, countries like Denmark and Switzerland, their police killed, drum roll please, 0. They actually went through the whole year without murdering one of their citizens.
Oh, that sounds awful. They're soft on crime over there.
I mean, you'd think they just kill a few just to stay in practice, right?
Something. I mean, you just like, oh God, well, they're over there with their free health care and their high quality of living. What the hell? Those animals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their police do. Somehow they approach situations without planning to kill anyone. And then another fact that people forget when they're talking about these killings, and by the way, people like to point out the racial dynamic because this also comes up with the killing of black people is talked about maybe more, and white kind of usually right wingers like to point out, well, more white people are killed each year by police than black people, and you're like, yes, that's true, but if you look at the stories, most of the white people killed were waving guns. So there is a difference. Black people are killed when they're unarmed. White people are often killed when they're waving guns at the cops.
Well, hold on now. If they're mass shooters, they're always taken into custody. They're never. So an unarmed black person is deemed more dangerous than a white person with a gun who has already killed people.
Yeah, sometimes the white person gets a burger.
Yeah, sometimes they get a burger. It just happened. Because, we're back to, society's opening up now after COVID's getting better. So we're back to normal, which back to normal in America is a mass shooting every week. So, we just had one a week ago, and the kid in Boulder, Colorado, this is going to be a shocker. White male, history of mental illness, easy access to guns. I don't think we've ever had that sequence of events happen before. And goes into a store in Boulder, Colorado. So, conservatives and NRA people like to think, oh, these big cities are all scary with the black people in there. No, I'm more scared of a white kid with a gun, and goes on, shoots up the store, and they take him out peacefully. But yet Jacob Blake just walks away from the cops for, I'm out of here, whatever. And they shoot him in the back 7 times.
Yep.
Like, explain that to me. Explain that to me. And they always have some bullshit excuse. And it's like, if anything, if it was reversed, like unarmed black men were just, they could, again, George Floyd, they could have just he was handcuffed. You had him. If you were worried about him being violent, you had him handcuffed. It's over. You don't need to put your knee on his neck. Like, if it was like, we get the unarmed black men are handcuffed and we just deal with that situation, but the active shooters, we just take them down. Okay. I mean, but then even going back to the conservatives always go, they killed more white people. That's still not good that our cops are just killing people all the time. I mean, that's not a like, see,
right.
It's awful. It's right. Like the whole thing's awful. This is, God damn, this country's so fucking stupid. Anyway.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, and the arguments against it are just they're garbage, like you're saying. It's like that doesn't make it okay, and I think people also have this myth in their mind that, okay, well, our cops are killing a lot of people, but those people are these hardened criminals. Sure, there's an occasional one, like you can point to, like George Floyd or something, where they've got him arrested and they still execute him. But in most part, they're dealing with hardened criminals, whatever the fuck a hardened criminal is. But the truth is that's not reality. 1 out of every 4 people killed by U.S. police is severely mentally ill. 1 out of every 4. Now, if you add in just mentally unstable or cognitively impaired, then you're probably getting up to like 50%. Because, I've had friends who have had bipolar manic attacks. And it's like they are in no condition to be going by what a cop tells them to do.
Right.
They think that, their mind process is completely different than anything you could call normal or what we're accustomed to. So if a cop told them to raise their hands, they'd probably go running up to him and try and give him a hug or something. And that kind of shit gets you shot. It gets you shot much quicker if you're black. But so, I mean, we really are, and the numbers are hard to get, but if you're talking just mentally unstable, it's probably 50% of everyone the cops kill is either severely mentally ill, which is 25%, and then mentally unstable, which is probably more like 50%. And so these are the last 2 things I'll get in here this week. In terms of the number of people, and we'll see what happens with the Chauvin trial, the number of cops that are actually convicted of any crime after having taken someone's life, since this is from NBC News, so this is not some far corner of the interwebs. NBC News found that since 2005, 35 officers have been convicted of any crime after having taken someone's life. Now, most of those they get convicted of some lesser charge that gets them either no jail time or like 2 years or something. It's not a straight up murder charge. And in fact, in terms of straight up murder, 3 cops since 2005 have been convicted of actual full on murder. And we're talking over 1,000 murders a year. So we're talking 15,000 at least murders since 2005. 3 officers have been convicted of murder. That's a conviction rate of 0.024%. Basically, if you're a cop, you can murder people and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And there's no civilian oversight. The cops investigating cops is another just ridiculous thing. And all these cops out there that are like all butthurt, like we do good work and we're just demonized. Well, several things. First of all, like Chris Rock's bit, it's like, American Airlines doesn't go, hey, sometimes we crash, but most of the time we land safely. They don't, American Airlines doesn't say that. So when you're a cop, there's no margin for error for you. And if it's too hard, you shouldn't have taken the job. Then get the fuck out there and go be a park ranger or whatever. You know what I mean? Go work at a golf course. I don't want to hear it if that job's too hard for you. And all the good investigative work you do, great. You investigate child pornographers and sex trafficking, murder, great. That doesn't mean then it's okay that you just gun people down, especially if they're black. So I don't want to hear that. And then the fact that if you were a cop and you're tired of that, cops' morale is low. You of all people should be stepping forward to say, we need independent review, because I'm embarrassed to be a cop now. If I was a cop, and I thought about being one when I was a lot younger, I would be embarrassed to be a cop now.
Yeah.
But you're propagandized, just like you're brainwashed in the military. You're just, you're always back the badge, no matter what. You back cops, no matter what. You will never speak out against another cop, which means that you're morally weak. So you can't even look at the other side of things.
Well, and you either give into that brainwashing and go along with it and try and prove you're the best at the garbage they want you to do, or you usually get flushed out, like you'll quit because you can't go against the whole policing system. No. And almost no one really tries. So if you really morally can't handle what the cops are asking you to do, you don't stay there. So you end up with all cops who are willing to do this garbage,
And also they say, we do good work and this, and I go, but most cops, and I have some friends that were cops, one who was on the force for 24 years. When was the last time, I'll say this to any cop, when was the last time you had an interaction with a cop where you weren't already one? Because when you're a cop, especially in America, you say, hey, I'm on the job, it's automatically you're treated differently. I was a cop for 24 years. You automatically get treated differently. So you don't know what it's like to have a cop when they come in with you with that robotic monotone, sir. And you're like, let me explain. I need you to sit down, sir. No, I'm just telling you this, sir. And they just shut you down. And cops don't have that done to them. And they should. They should have a bunch of federal officers come into where they live and kick the door down and put their knee on their necks and just tell them to shut up. And the minute they go, wait, hey, I'm a cop, and then boom, put their head on the wall and snap their arm and see how they like that. That should be every cop training. That should happen once a month. They should just get arrested and get their heads smashed into the
wall. Once a month, we're going to pound your head into a wall.
We're going to pound your head into the wall. And then we're going to go, how'd you like that? Did you like that?
Yeah, no, I got kind of lucky in that this showed me how kind of cops function. But this was before I had any kind of education on this stuff. I didn't view cops as good or bad. I kind of viewed them as mostly good, but I was like 20 years old and I got pulled over for speeding, and I was totally speeding. I was doing like 95 and a 65 or something. And the guy pulls me over for speeding, and I take off. I had my seatbelt on. I take off my seatbelt because he's approaching the car. And oh, no, I know. I still had, I didn't take it off. So I still had it on. So I'm sitting there in my seatbelt, and he walks up and I assume he's going to say speeding. And he goes, you were speeding. And I'm like, yeah, I was, sorry. And he goes, so why weren't you wearing your seatbelt tonight? And I'm sitting there in my seatbelt, and I go, no, I've got it on. And he goes, sir, why weren't you wearing your seatbelt tonight? And I was like, No, I have it on. I still have it on. I haven't taken it off yet. And I'm like holding the seatbelt out. And he's like, sir, you put on your seatbelt when I turned on my lights. Why weren't you wearing it tonight? And I was like, no, I did. And he goes, sir, we know. And I was like, okay, I didn't have my seatbelt on. I'm sorry. Like, there's nothing you can do there. And you're just making it worse by arguing with them. And I was like, now imagine I'm a black kid who's just been told, that he just vandalized something he didn't do. Like, what the fuck are you going to do?
Right. I know. It's like, and they just, sir, and they won't listen, and they treat you like you're less than human, and they're robots. And that's why when they go home at night and drink too much and put the revolver in their mouth, hey, thoughts and prayers.
Now that's going to get you double demonetized.
There you go. Remember,
YouTube's going to show up at your door and ask for money. Graham.
Hey, Graham, seriously, we're going to need a couple bucks for that last remark. We're going to need a couple bucks for that last remark. Seriously, you can't say stuff like that.
Yeah, come on, man. Get your shit together.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, I hate that the way they just start talking like robots.
Yeah.
I mean, the Supreme Court passed a law saying that police departments can reject applicants if their IQ is too high.
That was going to be in next week's factoid. So I'm glad you got to it. But yes, it went to court in 2000, and they found that you can reject police officers for being too smart because they don't want them too smart. Because if you're too smart, you ask questions and you don't give into the brainwashing. And beyond just too smart, Officer Ray Lewis, who's one of these few who has become an activist against policing, and he was an activist for Occupy. Philadelphia captain Ray Lewis, he said they also don't want to hire people with too much empathy, so they give cops empathy tests, and they won't hire them if they have too much empathy. And actually, you can go to there's official police website. I quoted in the article. I don't want to look it up, but it's like, police.org or something. And they have an article there that said that talks about how having too much empathy as a cop is as a bad thing. So you shouldn't have empathy. I mean, it's like, no wonder you end up with fucking big aggro, roided out assholes. That's who they're trying to hire.
Then they're trained to do that. That's why they're just like, take control of the situation. That's why they just go, sir, I'm going to need you to comply, sir. And it's like, you're not listening to me. You're not being reasonable. Like and dumb people, dumb roided out morons can't handle reason. It's like, if you ever argue with like a customer service person and they're like, this is our policy. And you go, that's not what happened though. I'm explaining to you. And they just repeat the thing same, because they're too dumb. That's all they know how to do is say that same thing over and over. Like a cop, they're too dumb to just, all they know how to do is say the same thing over and over. They won't listen to reason. They already see you as guilty.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's a completely broken system, and they hire morons, and these morons shouldn't be given guns. Like,
no. And next week we'll get into the amount of time they have training with those guns.
I can't wait for that.
I feel like we should extend these to 2 hours. First hour is like this. Second hour is therapy with Graham.
Just, yeah. The world's solutions are so clear.
Oh my God. The answers are fucking out there, man.
They're so clear. They're just clear, just like one word answers on a billboard. Here's how you fix it. And they're just, well, I don't know. It's hard. There's too many things involved because we're all so goddamn stupid and greedy. Anyway, let's go to our next subject.
Let's hit on something sweeter and nicer, like Julia Child.
Julia Child. So if you're younger, you don't know who Julia Child was. But if you're in your 40s or older, you probably know. I used to watch her as a kid. She was on PBS. She did this cooking show, and she was this like, oh, we're going to cook this. She had this big personality. Dan Aykroyd.
And wasn't there an SNL sketch too?
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd would play her on SNL in the 70s. And I remember he was like famous, and he'd like, he like cut himself, and there's like all this blood flying. I was like, oh, it's just a little bit of a nick, but I'm okay. I'm feeling a little dizzy. I remember, you know, and it's so like if you grew up in the 70s, you knew who she was, and she just made this great little thing. As another thing, she was very one of these iconic figures like Mr. Rogers, Julia Child, you know, that you just knew growing up. And my mom would, you know, my parents would watch her cooking show and thought she was so sweet, but typical of everything. And that's America, everything that's sweet and nice. It's a filthy scam. She worked for intelligence people, of course. And so we're going to get into she worked for the intelligence community.
You're blowing my mind, Graham. I was unaware.
So was I.
No, don't you dare say Bob Ross. If you say Bob Ross was CIA, I swear to God.
I mean, you find out, oh, Gloria Steinem was CIA. Oh, there's your women's movement was run by the intelligence community. Like everything in America is a scam and a lie. That's why I get so mad, because I was raised, cops are good. I liked cops. You're supposed to like them. Yeah. It's a lie. America's not great. It's a lie. It was built on slavery and racism. We're not the greatest country. We're the greatest country at murder, at greed, at like bombing everybody.
Something you and I think really link up on is when we find out we've been lied to on something, it's like fucking infuriating. Like I don't go, oh, Columbus was a genocidal maniac. Okay, cool. Let's move on. I go, what the fuck were they telling me for 20 years? How is that possible?
For 20 years. I mean, textbooks printed where Christopher Columbus came over and had pumpkin pie. It's like, and then it's like, oh, you guys just forgot to include his own journal of horrific events into this? Is that what you like?
We missed it. You know, we had a lot to do back when we were writing these books, and we just didn't see that bit. We thought he was very friendly to the natives, and they agreed to be genocided. It was actually a negotiation. And they said genocide sounds cool to us.
But to tie this all in, actually, it's the same thing. Like the popular belief tying into the whole policing and how we police, right? Oh, the protest turned violent because some of the protesters got violent. No, you agitated them. And everyone I know was at a George Floyd protest this past summer is like, it was fine until the cops showed up. Everybody said that. It's the same thing. Like, oh, the Native Americans were violent savages. No, you came in and stole their land and they had no choice. Like you started doing awful things to them. So they went, okay, I guess it's game on now. And it's like, this is our whole history. So much so.
You can see just in the initial contact, when they first showed up, they approached Columbus and his men like friendly, and they'd never seen a sword before. And he says, you know, they cut themselves on the sword because they never seen it, because I guess that tribe didn't have metal, or at least not that kind of, not steel. And then by the end of it, Columbus had left, but he left, I think, 35 men there. But they were so awful and demanding and wanted gold and everything that by the time Columbus returns, they'd been killed and their shack had been burned down by the natives, because the natives were like, yeah, these people are awful.
Yeah, fuck them. We have to kill them. We have no choice. Like, they're horrible. They were just killing every of us with their swords. So we had to steal some and get and kill them. We had no, what were we supposed to do? Right. And it's just like, wait, who is the savages? Mm-hmm. Who are the savages? I feel like it was the Columbus and his gang. So yeah, everything in America is a lie. Julia Roberts is probably a lying.
No, Julia Roberts is fine. It's just Julia Child.
Okay, I don't trust any of them. I mean, look, George Clooney was listed in the WikiLeaks, the Sony WikiLeaks emails as having been a CIA asset, and he got a blowjob from Ghislaine Maxwell. So I don't trust any of them. They're all rats. Anyway,
really?
Yep. That's the other thing too. And going back to how the lies of everything is, even that Sony email dump, right? That hack or whatever it was.
Right before the interview movie.
Yeah, it was right before the interview movie. And it was also like the media focused on, oh, this producer said something like, oh, that, that actress is overweight or ugly or whatever. And they just focused on the stuff. Right. They didn't focus on the intelligence community working with Hollywood. They didn't focus on all of that for some weird, wacky reason. I guess, again, just like Columbus's journal, I guess they just forgot it or didn't read it all the way through.
That's actually the perfect example of that phrase, limited hangout. Like, the mainstream media was like, well, we can't act like this didn't happen. So we'll act like it happened. And the major things are that that executives were discussing, Jennifer Lawrence naked. Right. And like, that's the major thing. And people will gawk on that and won't look deeper,
Yep. That's exactly what they do. So how Julia Child went from World War II spy to beloved celebrity chef. There she is. She had this nice, lovely voice, and we're going to make a brisket. She handled top secret information as an officer for the agency that preceded the CIA. We've talked about them before, the OSS. That was basically created in World War II. That was Office of Secret Services or something like that.
Right.
So Julia Child is remembered for her love of French cooking and her TV show. But let's get into this. First, let me go to this one. Just to view her intelligence. In August of 2008, the United States National Archive released tens of thousands of personnel files of those who work for the Office of Strategic Services. That was it. OSS was Office of Strategic Services, the forerunner of the CIA. Among the former employees was one Julia McWilliams, the future Julia Child. The French chef's intelligence background wasn't really a secret, but after the release, more people became aware of her service during World War II, a recipe for an intriguing life before marinating French cuisine. And then this is
I knew her brisket was too good to be true.
So this is
no one cooks an eclair like that without having some deep state up in there.
Julia Child took a secretarial course at the Packard Commercial School, but quit after a month when she landed a job as a secretary with W.J. Sloan, a home furnishing company in New York. She was in charge of highly classified documents related to U.S. military activity during World War II. She wanted, like a lot of Americans, she wanted to work, and I want to, fight the Nazis in World War II. She began in volunteering with the Pasadena chapter of the American Red Cross, where she headed the Department of Stenographic Services. She also worked in the Aircraft Warning Service. When she tried to join the military good, she was rejected from both the Women's Army Corps and the Women's Accepted Volunteer Emergency Services because she was too tall. In 1942, she became a senior typist with the research unit of Office of War Information in Washington, D.C. By the end of the year, she became a junior research assistant with the Secret Intelligence Branch of the Office of Strategic Services. She was among 4,500 women who served in the OSS. A research assistant for the OSS Secret Intelligence, Julia Child recorded thousands of officer names into the agency's internal database system and handled highly classified documents. She then went into emergency sea rescue, and she helped develop a recipe for shark repellent.
Stop.
So again, never came up when she was making brisket. This is also really good as a saute or a shark repellent.
I can't fault her for coming up with a better shark repellent. Thank you, Julia Child.
Oh, good for her. Amen on that one. Because there had been multiple shark attacks by naval officers. Curious sharks often set off explosives meant to attack enemy parties. So the OSS then said, we need a shark repellent. After 100 trial and error, different substances, including poisons, organic acids, even decayed shark meat, and year-long field tests, the research team, which included Julia Child, found copper acetate to be the most effective repellent. Like, this is that was her first major recipe.
It feels like they're also going to say, and also she came up with this formula to kill a man.
Yeah, there's something in here that I really like, that I really want to know. Because I couldn't find any really. I was hoping to find that, like, oh well, and this is how you cut the man's carotid artery and choke him out. That's just, how you torture a man for information. Yeah, and in 1944, she was sent to work in Kandy, Sri Lanka, where she met her husband, another OSS officer. So this is the like Disney version that is all I could find online. But her and her husband were probably just running around murdering people.
Yeah, they were slitting throats left and right. I mean, listen, you have that many paring knives around. We all know what goes down.
Yeah, the big recipe was shark repellent. And here's just a little clip of her we should show the audience, just so they know what she's like.
I'm going to see if that is flippable. Well, I'm going to try it anyway. When you flip anything, you just have to have the courage of your convictions, particularly if it's sort of a loose mass. Well, that didn't go very well. See, when I flipped it, I didn't have the courage to do it the way I should have. But you can always pick it up, and if you're alone in the kitchen, who is going to see? But the only way you learn how to flip things is just to flip them.
Well, she just said, when you make a mess in the kitchen, who's going to see? So we already know that during her TV show, she was pushing intelligence lies. Oh, this is how that's what she just said. Some stuff spilled out. Oh, who's going to see? So that's obviously that's for like OSS training, is literally just like, oh, when you murder a man and you get you make it look like an accident. Who's going to know? Like,
I'd like to. So she's one of these rare celebrity stories where they were a spy or a CIA person before they kind of got famous. With most of the ones that I've heard of, and I know that Houdini did some stuff, but I got to look into some more of them. But it's usually that the person is a celebrity, and then the CIA is like, "Hey, we hear they're, CIA friendly, and let's go talk to them and see if when they're meeting with the King of France, they could get us some info." And so they kind of the CIA searches out celebrities to kind of start working with. So it sounds like this is the reverse, which I think is more unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I know how they look after certain types of people. So my father was a college professor. He's a research professor, and he spoke German fluently, and would go to Germany at least once a year. We lived there. Well, my family lived in Germany in the 60s before I was born. And then we lived there again in 1975 and 76. He had a research scholarship. But my dad told me later in life that they approached him and said, when you're in West, because this is again, West, there was West and East Germany. And my family lived in West Berlin before I was born. And then we lived in Munich when I was alive. My dad said that somebody approached him and said, hey, would you mind just listening, when you hear any parties, any information, because you're going in and listening to these German professors and just reporting back to us. And he was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. That's what my dad told me.
No, I'm trying to quit. Let's not.
And my dad and my buddy, when I told this story to my friend, one of my friends is convinced my dad was an intelligence operative because he was in the Air Force National Guard, and he did code breaking. And he was in the Air National Guard like after World War II. And my dad was highly intelligent, spoke multiple languages, and then they approached him to go in the 60s or whatever, early 70s, to go listen in on stuff in Germany. So it doesn't surprise me that Julia Child her and her husband were running around murdering people.
What do you think's in the meat?
Oh, just a touch of shark repellent and fear from a Russian operative that we tortured or whatever. So, all right, that's Julia Child. That's our big government secret.
There you go. Ruining everybody's childhood heroes yet again.
Government secrets ruining your childhood again. Next week, Captain Kangaroo. Was he actually a sniper? Like, probably was. Who knows?
Next week, Bozo the Clown was hired by the FBI to, sleep with as many women as possible while infected with AIDS.
Did Annette Funicello actually drop a bomb? Probably that's just all of our heroes are just CIA ops. That'll be the title of my book. All your heroes are CIA operatives.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. I think that's episode 35. Lock it down. Halfway to 70. Government secrets. Lee Camp. Where can people find all your business?
Thanks, man. Yeah. I have two other podcasts called Common Censored and Moment of Clarity. People can get those for free as well. My TV show is called Redacted Tonight. And it's all leecamp.com. I do live streams a lot of days of the week, and you can catch those too. Leecamp.com is the best place to go.
Right on, folks. And of course, go to grahamelwood.com where you can support my Patreon. I'm also doing on Rockfin every Monday night to do a Rockfin premium members only stream at 8:00 Pacific. Graham's Late Night Crypto Lounge. We've been demonetized by YouTube, so there's a lot of great ways to support the show. I got Political Vigilante merch. It's all at grahamelwood.com. And also the Political Vigilante game show. We've done 4 episodes now, maybe 5.
Which I just won, motherfuckers.
Lee Camp just won handily, the victor. So you can watch all of those if you're a Rockfin premium member or a Patreon member. So check all of that out. Lee, outstanding work today.
Thank you, man. You too.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/GrahamElwood and rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at grahamelwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.